Aren't we lucky to have heard that original recording of a frustrated writer sitting at his desk, furious at the work that he has just written, recorded all the way back in 1502. Quite remarkable. Hello there, and welcome back to the final couplet with me, Theo Cowan. Today we're looking at Sonnet 78, of course. But before I dive into that, here's a thought that I had recently when I was just sat on my sofa staring into space. You know Shakespeare, right? You know Shakespeare. He obviously invented loads of words and phrases and stuff like that. And if you were an audience member going to watch a Shakespeare play for the first time, here's the question. How did you know what those words meant? You'd hear a word for the first time and you'd be like, what does that mean? What's going on there? You'd need to have you'd need to have Shakespeare in your ear explaining what it means. You know, for example, you hear the phrase in a pickle, alright, which supposedly Shakespeare came up with. You hear that on stage for the first time, you're thinking, what's going on here? I know what a pickle is, but in a pickle, inside a pickle? What's going on? Just something to think about. The audience must have been baffled by a lot of the stuff going on in Shakespeare, a lot of the words used, I would have thought. Or maybe sort of word of mouth, the meaning for these words sort of got out quite quickly and people spread it about, and so when you actually went to watch it, you would know what they meant. I don't know, it's just a question, and if you have the answer for that, let me know, if you were at one of Shakespeare's original performances or something like that. Right, enough thinking, let's get analysing. Here is Sonnet 78. So oft have I invoked thee for my Muse, and found such fair assistance in my verse, as every alien pen hath got my use, and under thee their poesy disperse. Thine eyes, that taught the dumb on high to sing, and heavy ignorance aloft to fly, have added feathers to the learned's wing, and given grace a double majesty. Yet be most proud of that which I compile, whose influence is thine and born of thee. In others' works thou dost but mend the style, and arts with thy sweet graces graced be. But thou art all my art, and dost advance as high as learning my rude ignorance. So, there we have it, Sonnet 78. And of course the overarching theme of this one is him telling his lover that his lover is his ultimate muse and the inspiration for all of his poetry, and indeed the inspiration for a lot of other poets' poetry, which, you know, comes as a bit of a surprise to me. I didn't know other people were writing about Shakespeare's lover or the subject of his poems. Turns out this guy is a pretty popular young man. Or, on the other hand, Shakespeare is just imagining that other writers are writing about his lover, and actually they're just writing about their own lover, or just random people that they see on the street. Shakespeare, I feel, having looked at 78 of his sonnets so far, likes to think that the world revolves around him, I would say. I don't think that's harsh to say. And I think if Shakespeare were here in the room with me right now, he would agree. In a way, I feel like you almost have to have that arrogance to be Shakespeare, to be one of the world's greatest writers. I don't think you can just be an ordinary bloke, can you? Anyway, I digress. Let's dive into this line by line and work out what the hell Shakespeare was going on about in Sonnet 78. So we start with, so oft have I invoked thee for my Muse. So basically I have used you as the source of inspiration, often. and found such fair assistance in my verse. And you have aided my poetry loads, all right? You've been great for my poetry. You've been fantastic for my poetry. So you have been the inspiration for a lot of my poetry, and you have helped me write. So thanks for that. Then he continues with, as every alien pen hath got my use, and under thee their poesy disperse. So here he's continuing on and saying that you've been so great for my poetry that actually loads of other poets have started writing about you, like I have, and you have been the inspiration for them, and they all write poetry in your name. So that's how bloody inspirational you are. Everyone else is at it. The word poesy there, obviously meaning the sort of art of writing poetry. Thine eyes that taught the dumb on high to sing, and heavy ignorance aloft to fly, have added feathers to the learned's wing, and given grace a double majesty. So that is all one thought, 4 lines there about his lover's eyes. And he's saying, your eyes are so beautiful, so sexy, and so inspirational, that they have taught the dumb, aka people that can't speak, they've taught the dumb to sing, and made idiots more intelligent, and made the educated, intelligent people even more intelligent, flying even higher, and have made graceful people even more majestic. So, it's not just saying you made sort of idiots a bit cleverer. No, you've made people that were already great, already intelligent, already graceful, even better. So, wow, that is quite something. Yet, be most proud of that which I compile, whose influence is thine and born of thee. So here he's saying, you need to be most proud of my work, because you are the influence and you have inspired me. Now this to me is a hell of a statement, isn't it? I mean, that is just arrogance to another level in my head. He's saying the thing you should be most proud of is the way that you've inspired me to be able to write what I write how I write the poetry that I create. That is crazy. Imagine receiving that bit of love poetry. Going, okay, so what? So I should just be proud of how amazing your writing is because I've inspired it. Oh, well done me. I don't know about you, but if I received that, I probably wouldn't be too happy. And he continues with, in others' works thou dost but mend the style, and arts with thy sweet graces graced be. So here he's saying with other writers, you just improve their style. So you're making their already good poems a little bit better. Right, so that's alright, I guess. Like you're improving it a little bit. And now we're on to the final couplet. But thou art all my art, and dost advance as high as learning my rude ignorance. So he's saying, with other poets, you improve their writing a little bit, but they're already skilled. Whereas with me, I have no skill at all without you. You lift up my ignorance so that I'm clever and well educated. You're basically you are the sole reason that I'm able to create the incredible poetry that I write. So look, we don't know who this young man is that Shakespeare's writing to here. Could be anyone. But what he's saying here in many ways is you are the inspiration for everything that I've written. So without this young man, this hot, sexy young man, we wouldn't have Romeo and Juliet. We wouldn't have, what's another one that he's done? Hamlet. We wouldn't have Macbeth. So thank you to this young man. You've done a good job. You've been a great inspiration, and in many ways the only reason that Shakespeare has written anything ever. So there we have it, Sonnet 78. Now it's time we put this to our story. And if you'll remember last week, Shakespeare is still on board the pirate ship, and he's asked his good sort of friend / lover / enemy, Ben Jonson in London, to send him some money to pay the pirates to get him off the pirate ship. And Ben Jonson has sort of been umming and ahhing after Shakespeare sent him some sonnets. He's been going, yeah, okay, all right, I see what you're doing, but maybe write me a better sonnet and I'll think about it. So Shakespeare obviously sent him Sonnet 77, and with it he gave him a blank notebook just to sort of say, look, maybe get a little bit better at writing. It was quite a strange one, Sonnet 77. And that has now been delivered to Ben Jonson. So we've got to see how Ben Jonson receives that. Maybe he's going to be angry, maybe he will not really get the message that Shakespeare's sending and he'll bail him out. Let's find out. Ben Jonson finished reading Shakespeare's Sonnet 77. He picks up the empty notebook that accompanied it and said, sorry, am I reading this wrong, or is Shakespeare telling me that I need to sort of be better at writing, that I could improve if I just sort of wrote my thoughts down in this more often? And the pirate messenger that delivered the sonnet said, yes, I think he is getting at that. I don't know if you find that offensive or if actually that's sort of a nice bit of advice. That's really up to you. And Ben Jonson says, yeah, don't really know how to take this, to be honest, because I think I'm a pretty good writer as is. And I thought the sonnet that I just sent Shakespeare was rather good. So this is strange. Look, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to come with you to the pirate ship with the money that you need and bail Shakespeare out, and then I can talk to him about what he was getting at with this Sonnet 77. And the pirate said, well, that's all right with me. Come on then, off we go. And so they travelled to the pirate ship that was still waiting in the sea just off the coast of England. The head pirate greeted Ben Jonson as he stepped aboard the ship. Here, Ben Jonson, welcome. I assume you have the money required? Ben Jonson says, yes, I do have the money. Where is Shakespeare? And the pirate says, just down here, come on. They go down to the little prison cell that Shakespeare has been kept in for quite a few weeks now. He's not looking great down there. Shakespeare looks up and sees Ben Jonson and says, oh, Ben, oh God, thank God. Oh, thank God. Thank God you've come to save me. And Ben Jonson says, yes, Shakespeare, despite everything, despite you giving me advice on how to write, I have come to save you. And then, suddenly, someone else boards the ship. There's a racket, shouting, crying, screaming from pirates. And down the stairs, eventually, comes Christopher Marlowe. Shakespeare, it's me, Marlowe. I've come to save you. Sorry it took me so long. I got a bit caught up with some other affairs. And Shakespeare says, oh, Marlowe, hello. Wow, this is this is a bit awkward, because obviously Ben Jonson's here to save me, and he sort of got the money. So I guess one of you, maybe you could split the money and sort of each give 25 quid and then we can get out of here. And Christopher Marlowe says, oh, hello, Ben. Ben says, Marlowe. Well, how do you want to go about this? And Marlowe says, I want him all to myself, Ben. He's mine. I'll hand over the £50 and you get off the ship. And Ben Jonson says, But I think I still love Shakespeare. I want to pay the money. And Shakespeare says, look, guys, don't fight over me. Let's just maybe toss a coin. And so that settled it. They tossed a coin. Marlowe said heads. Ben Jonson said tails. And heads it was. Marlowe wins Shakespeare. Ben Jonson says, "You know what, Shakespeare? Despite everything, I think I still love you, and one day I will come back for you. I will win you." And Shakespeare says, "Okay, yep, no, that's nice to hear. All right, bye then, Ben, bye." Ben Jonson leaves the boat and returns to London. Christopher Marlowe picks Shakespeare up, tosses him over his shoulder, says goodbye to the pirates, "Yar, goodbye, thanks for your custom," and boards his own boat. Shakespeare and Marlowe were reunited. Shakespeare stuffed his face with all the foods that Christopher Marlowe had on his boat and went down for some sleep. He said, "Thanks, Marlowe. You really are the love of my life." A couple of hours later he awoke, and on the little bedside table next to him, he saw a pile of about 150, maybe 200 poems, written by all different poets. He started looking through them, and he realised that they were all about Christopher Marlowe. They were all professing their love to Marlowe, saying how hot he was, how sexy he was, how lovely his eyes were, how gorgeous his feet were, what a lovely head of hair he had. And Shakespeare thought, bloody hell, didn't know this many people were so in love with Marlowe. I mean, I knew he's an attractive guy, but God, this is crazy. But Marlowe's mine, all mine. And he is the true inspiration for all of my poetry, not these stupid idiots that pretend that he's influenced their poetry. He quickly got out his quill and scrawled Sonnet 78. Sonnet 78 would prove to Marlowe that Marlowe was his true inspiration, his muse, and the reason that he could write what he wrote and how he wrote. Not these other silly little writers that pretended Marlowe was their muse. He scrawled for a few hours, and eventually he called Marlowe down. When Marlowe arrived, Shakespeare threw the pile of poems from other poets at him. Marlowe said, "What the bloody hell are you doing, Shakespeare?" Shakespeare said, "What are all these? All these other poets, all these other men that say they love you. What is this?" Marlowe says, "I don't know, Shakespeare, I guess I'm a good-looking guy. I get a lot of love letters. I get a lot of love poetry. So what? It's nothing serious." And Shakespeare says, "You are my only inspiration. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to write anything ever." Marlowe says, "Okay, yeah, I get it. To just calm down." And Shakespeare says, "I've written you a poem to explain why I am better than all these other writers, and why you are my sole inspiration." And Marlowe says, "Okay, you didn't need to do that. Honestly, Shakespeare, it's fine. Like, these don't really mean anything to me." And Shakespeare says, "Just read it." Marlowe sighed, picked up Sonnet 78 from Shakespeare's shaking hands, and read Sonnet 78. "I always use you as the inspiration for my poems, and you've made them sound bloody good. So good, in fact, that every other poet has started addressing poems to you, and now they all write their poetry in your name. Your eyes are so sexy that they've taught the mute to sing, made idiots intelligent, made the intelligent even more intelligent, and made the graceful more majestic. Yet, you should be most proud of my writing, because you are the influence and inspiration. With other writers, you only make their style better, adding a bit of pizzazz to the skill they already have. But without you, I have no skill at all. You raise my ignorance and make me well educated." Wow, so there we have it. Shakespeare has been reunited with Christopher Marlowe at the last minute. He He arrived and swept Shakespeare off his feet. Goodbye, Ben Jonson. Hello, Christopher Marlowe. But turns out Christopher Marlowe has a lot of attention from other men, other poets. And will that get in the way eventually of his relationship with Shakespeare? We're going to have to find out next week. Until then, bye!